Hey guys, welcome back to the Joe Silverback Show. I'm your host, Joe Bunton, and today we're going to be talking about the garden. The garden is something that has been in our collective consciousness for tens of thousands of years, and in the last 10,000 years, it has become a dominant theme as one of the archetypes in human heart-mind connection, mind-heart-body connection, and that this is one of the themes of the Silverback principle and the connection with nature. So whether you're getting into wild, primitive nature, you're going into the woods, you're gathering berries, you're hunting for mushrooms, you're hunting for animals. It's the connection of mind, heart, body with nature. So we've got both the primitive garden and the cultivated garden. We've got the Garden of Eden, and we've got the garden in our dacha, in our backyard, in our community. So I have long been aware of, as civilization is moving faster and faster into the industrialized, technologized, machine-oriented world, what that is taking away from us as human beings. And those people who live live a simpler life and live closer with the earth and growing their own things have a deeper connection with mind, heart, body than those of us who are alienated from that and have to actually recreate that in order to get more of the mind, heart, body connection that happens in places like the garden. So family, there's a few things in life that are wholesome and completing for us. So there's man alone with himself and his thoughts and his relationship to God and his relationship to nature and quietude and solitude. That's the individual learning to be comfortable with himself. Know thyself, know who I am, know what my purpose is, know where I'm going, knowing how I'm going to get there. That's man alone with himself and knowing his purpose. Secondly, there is man, the social animal, and man needing to partner with his mate. That means man with his woman, woman with his man. And again, I'm not getting into anything other than heterosexual partnering because that's what I know. And this is not a judgment on anybody. This is just what I know and therefore what I talk about. But it doesn't matter to me who you love. It matters that you do find somebody whom you can love and whom you can be in a partnered relationship with, because the only way to complete the self is to have a mirror from somebody else. And that's one man by himself and knowing himself and getting comfortable in himself and knowing what his purpose is, man finding his woman, partnering, and having each other mirror each other, and then the two becoming one. The two becoming one is very, very powerful. And then there is the extension from that, which is nature inside, nature outside, and the creation of new life, the creation of children, the creation of family. And the creation of children and the creation of family also leads us to the garden. The garden, because there are very few places left where man has a relationship to participating in creation. So what I mean by that is that that anybody who has dug in the garden and cultivated a little plot of land and put his hands in the earth and seen the bugs, seen the worms, turned over the compost to see how the breakdown of smaller organisms are breaking down plant and animal material to become compost in the earth to make the soil rich, is a healthier man than a man who is only involved in inside his little cubicle in his house with his television, with his computer, with his technology. Inside your house is dealing primarily with this component of the self, the mental. And technology is almost exclusively in this realm, which is why it's creating so much anxiety, which is why, when the weather permits, getting outside, and even when the weather doesn't permit, getting outside to connect mind, heart, body with the elements. So gardening does something even further. It brings mind, heart, body into working with the earth and connecting our consciousness, connecting our thoughts with growing something. So it's no accident that the tree of life is a symbol in all major religions, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, or ancient Mayan civilization. Man has been aware of roots digging down into the earth, reaching deep into the soil, pulling up and drawing from the earth, and bringing out new life, branching out, providing fruit, providing shade, providing home for birds and other animals, and as this connection with the heavens above and the cosmos, the sun, the moon, the stars, and how that all is one, is symbolic of the harmonious whole of creation. So the tree of life and the garden are deep, deep symbols for something that man has identified as bringing him connection to that which he can't get anywhere else. Now, if you look at the dynamics of what the garden typically does, it's typically, people in my age range who are moving away from just work productivity into working in the garden, bringing produce to our family, but also bringing our children and their children into a family-oriented, nature-oriented, out of the home, away from the technology consciousness. So if you have not experienced it, I think one of the most beautiful things in the world is the grandchild playing in the garden with grandma and grandpa, or just grandpa, and following them around. And whether it's learning about worms, or learning about animals that you might have, or just watching the seedlings start to sprout and participating in that, there's something so rich and organic in that experience. The other thing is working with the hands. So nature is not foolish, and creation is not foolish. So every aspect of creation and every aspect of nature has evolved over eons of time and it works for a reason. And these hands here, the craft of using the hands, or the art of using the hands to create beauty, to bring beauty into the world, whether you're painting, whether you're writing, whether you're knitting, whether you're sewing, whether you're working with wood, whether you're working, your hands in the earth. Yesterday I was over at my mom's house working in the garden, spreading the mulch out, pulling the weeds up, pruning the fruit trees, and preparing the backyard for planting of the vegetable garden. My neighbor was working in my carport with wood. He's making some benches for his van. He's a biologist. And somebody else was in the side yard, a friend of mine, building a shed. And the guys that were building the shed, their sons came over and brought them lunch, and my neighbor and I had, during our break times, we're talking to each other. There is nothing greater than what the hands, working with the hands, do. The reason why is that you can't get away from handcrafting and heart. Handcrafting takes you need a certain amount of this, but you need a certain amount of this. So my mother-in-law knits me a sweater, and she puts a zipper with a decal. She knits me a hat. She puts a little decal. When I walk with these outdoors, they're unique because they were knit by one individual for me. There's nothing commercial about it. It's only made by hands with love for someone who's passing their love on to me and into our family connection of, my wife and I and her parents through something handcrafted. With my own sons, one of the things I told them and taught them long ago, and one of the things I teach in my writing workshops, is that this communication through emails is nothing personal about it. It's cold, it's impersonal. If you fall in love with a woman and you're a man, and you write by hand a beautiful letter, or you compose a song, or better yet, the story of my father-in-law who was playing a song, singing to, who would become his future wife and the mother of, his 3 children, or myself walking downhill singing to my beautiful wife and her telling me that my voice was out of tune. These are heart-oriented, and it's something that we can all bring back into our personal experience. Primitive nature versus cultivated nature. You need them both, and I highly encourage people to have walks at the seashore where you're connecting to a billion-year-old ocean, and the tides that come in, and my connection to God at the seashore is deeper than any other place. Going into the canyons, I'm alone with wild birds, wild animals, wild trees, and there's a different kind of consciousness that I'm aware of that wasn't created by me. It was created by something greater than me, and that's something that we need. And then I go to my mom's home, and 30 years ago, I gathered from the seashore seaweed. I rinsed off the seaweed. I dried it. I rinsed it off. I dried it, and I dug these 4-foot wide and 4-foot deep holes, and I layered seaweed and soil, seaweed and soil, seaweed and soil, and we planted these fruit trees. That's the connection between hands, heart, mind, and earth, nature, and the growing of things. And today, when I eat fruit, it's connected to my mother. And when I eat from these trees, it's connected to something that we did together. And it's something that we participated in. And the next video is going to be all about how what we put in is what is returned to us. What we go to buy at a store can never compare to what we can make with the hands and what we can grow in the garden. Okay, so that's past my 15 minutes, and I have a commitment to, making my videos 15 minutes long. Join us, subscribe, give us your comments, and hello to my in-laws in Russia.